Right here we have a screw, and I'm basically going to drill right here so that the screw can lie right here and then sit flush with the surface of the panel. I also need to sand this a little bit down so that there's no little bump right here. That was an oversight when I was cutting these. And I'm actually going to use screws a little longer than this so it has something to bite into. This will make everything align and hold them together a lot better than a press fit. We'll want these aligned, and then we can drill through. I have two drills I'm using right here. One of these is a countersink and then pilot hole combo. So you drill a hole, it countersinks it, but this isn't long enough. So I need another drill to drill through this and then mark a hole on the other side. From there, I can use the countersink drill again to drill a pilot hole. I can then put it back in and drill another screw. Oops. Yeah, I just did that. Ooh, that hurt. Try to be gentle and do your pilot holes all the way through instead of most of the way through like I've been doing. The way I designed this requires me to go in with a planer and basically just take off some material until this is tangent. If you look right now, this edge isn't exactly tangent with the side. Now I can come through with a planer and fix this. This completely destroys the point of my beautifully sanded edges that I put a fillet into. Whatever. Ow. Stupid splinter. Said this was fun. I never said it'd be easy. If you have something like this where it's sticking up all the way and you'd have to plane it all down, then lengthen your slot so that more falls down basically. It's a little better. That's a lot better. Now it's flush, which is good. Now I'm going to assemble this starting with the back end, then going to the front end, and then going into the middle. The back is a priority because the back will join with section 2. The front is the second priority because it kind of looks cool. The middle just needs to be spaced roughly in the middle. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it should be accurate. Whenever I'm drilling holes in the plywood, it's stripping through. So I want to make sure that the pilot holes I'm drilling are actually thick enough. And it looks like they aren't. The pilot holes should be about the shank of your drill bit, if that makes any sense. I'm going with a bit size bigger to make sure I won't split any more boards. I should have probably done this from the start, but better late than never, I guess. Man, the new screw size really improved the hole quality, and there's very little of the wood splitting here. So I think this, the pilot hole diameter really matters in this case, especially here because it's so close to the end grain. You might even consider doing the stringer hole thickness a little more than the actual plywood, because the stringer hole thickness really doesn't matter. The plywood down here does because you want it to bite into the plywood. You don't really care if it bites into the stringer too much, because the countersunk head will pull down on the screw. Nice. I'm going to measure halfway through to make sure that this is in the middle, but if it's not perfect, I don't think it ultimately matters. I'm going to use one screw as a guide for the rest, because once you have one correct, you don't want it to go incorrect. I always say that. This is actually really exciting. But this is really exciting. I didn't think I would get to this point this soon. That's awesome. Now we can go ahead, sand everything so that it's flush. Right here you'll see there's about a ½ inch gap. This gap, at first I thought it was these stringers right here that were basically rubbing against the bottom, but upon further investigation I realized that the front is actually supposed to be suspended about 0.75 inches in the air. So I'm going to make a little spacer for the front to just basically sit on so that it doesn't create a gap down here. I'll try to fix this in the future by giving the front rib some like shoes or something. I don't know. Right here I've clamped these edges together so that this would be where it needs to be. And then on the front I'm going to use this piece of scrap wood and trace where it needs to be, basically. That got me a shape kind of like this, and so I'm just going to cut around this with a jigsaw, make it a little prettier, and then put it under. Right here is the piece I cut out, and it just fits really nicely under here, like so. I do want a center line, so I'm going to use the center line off of this and mark it right there. Do need to make sure it's square though. This approach where I basically traced from the top worked kind of nicely, but I'm not sure it's square. Another approach I can do is that because it's symmetrical, wherever the edge is 1 inch, right here, is 1 point, wherever the other inch is 1 right here, and I can do the same with 1.5 inch, and I can kind of find an average. So there's my 1.5 inch, and here's my 1.5 inch. So the middle between the 1.5 inches is, I hate math, is 7.75, so this is the first one, and then the middle of the second, the 1 inch lengths is 4.5. We have our three results right here, our one we took from the 1 inch lengths, and then the one we took just drawing a random line. I'm going to go with this one. It's in the middle, and I think that's the most accurate. I'm going to cut 10 inches from each side. That should give us a pretty clean result. That was a lot of math. Hopefully I didn't lose you, but basically when I mean 1 inch, I mean this distance right here, not a random. Since the offset is the same on both sides, if I go 15.25 inches, I'll be in the center. So just half the distance from here to here. I can line that up with the line I had before, and this is where all of the magic is going to happen. Now I just have to figure out a way to make this go to the ground. I think I'm going to use a system of wedges, kind of. So I cut a few of these little 3 inch by 3 inch wedges at 45 degrees, and I'm kind of going to use them as those 90-degree angle brackets you can find. I'm going to put them behind the simulator in a few places, And then hopefully they'll hold up the simulator. At the top of them, I'm going to use a short screw, and at the bottom of them, I'm going to use a longer screw. Oh yeah, and MDF really isn't for drilling into. Oh well. I really don't want to glue it though, because that's a stupid idea. Glue tends to stick to each other. I think I solved a mystery. We have this kind of plasticky wall stuff that should be a problem solver. It's pretty flexible. This isn't really trying at all, but it's this weird wall plasticky thing. I'm not really quite sure what it is exactly, but I know it's flexible and I love it. Since this is a white material, I don't need to do any painting, which is kind of sad because I wanted an excuse to get an air paint thing. But now I guess I don't have that excuse. So yeah, you win some, you lose some. Huh. You know what I think would be super fun, but completely pointless? Clecos. We should go get some. This sheet good is super cool. How flexible it is. It was actually quite a hassle getting it into the car, but once it was in the car, I didn't have to like fold any of the seats down because it just kind of rolled up. It's super weird how flexible it is. I've never seen something like it. Though it would be fun for me to get a jigsaw and kind of go at it, I'm gonna trace roughly how much I need to cut, and then from there I'll trim it up. I think that's smart. I'm really not sure though. I got super worried because I thought I cut it wrong, but I put it on wrong actually. I keep saying measure twice, cut once, but this time I measured once and I'm gonna have to re-glue it. Oh well. But this is a good exercise to see how well it goes together. Yes, this is a brilliant exercise I planned out all along. We have this flexi bendy tube thing, and I think what I'm going to do is find the midpoint of this. There are a lot of midpoints we're finding in this simulator, and that's because the simulator is symmetric with itself. Basically what we're going to do is use this measuring tape and just mark it out and then lay it over the simulator. Half of 96 is 48. This midpoint right here is going to be incredibly helpful because there's a midpoint on the simulator and we're going to use it to screw things in. I need to get this thing some chocks. Everyone's talking about how I really need to get locking wheels. I knew putting wheels on this would be a problem. It's hard to see, but there's a line right here that shows you where things need to be aligned. And we just need to align this line right here with this stringer right here. So it looks like it's almost perfectly aligned right now. So I can actually screw it in just roughly and then use that for the future. Just when everything is perfect, you bonk it. This actually screws in pretty well. I'm kind of impressed. But it looks like it's basically countersunk. I'm really excited to work with this material. It does smell like a new house though, and I don't know if that's the vibe I'm going for. I think what I want to do is go ahead and screw some more in, just to make sure that this piece of sheet good stays where it is, and so that it doesn't move. I know those are the exact same thing. Just give me a break. Come back. I'm sure some of you are screaming out of your mind. Why? Why have you been spending like 2 months on this stupid first half of your simulator? Ugh. But this acts as a practice. I honestly perform a lot better on tests when I have a practice exam, and right here I made a few mistakes. I learned from them, and I'm developing my techniques, so this is why I'm working on the section 1 for the flight simulator, and hopefully you can understand that. If not, go home. It looks like we're gonna have to have some bend reliefs or something, because there's physically less material here than there is in the front. Now that I think about it, I don't really know how Cessna does this, like in actual Cessna 172s, so it might be the wrong time to figure out. I probably should have figured this out before I start cutting. But what's the fun in that? Okay, I think one of the things I did wrong was that I went from the back all the way and then tried to do the front all the way. But instead I think it would be a lot more effective to go from the back to the front, to the next back, to the next front, to the next back, to the next front. I think honestly that just makes it easier to do, and when things are easier to do, they're usually a lot more enjoyable. You're all gonna yell at me for saying that. Don't do that. I just put my chin up to the impact driver like this, and then screwed it in, and it went like a woodpecker. Oh, and you'll also see, like I did in one of my previous videos, I actually put the light under here, and it just gives it the silhouette of where the rib is, so that helps a lot for me knowing where to screw in. One of the problems I made here was that this skin can't really be a flat piece easily, and then just magically poof into a curved piece. It's kind of like if you get an orange, and you peel the orange and try to smash it down real flat, you'll get a bunch of weird shapes that definitely will not be nice to work with. So basically, I think what I have to do is have some basically bend reliefs, I guess, or cuts, some slots out of here that allow this to bend nicely together, and they'll have to be pieces that join together. If I have to do this in the future, I don't think I want to go with this weird material, even though it is white and fairly cheap. I think plywood would work better because you can glue the pieces together. I think I just found something that really helps illustrate how weird the shape is, kind of. If you go over to inspect and then go to ISO curve analysis, you can see all these curves the simulator deals with. More specifically, we want to deal with these curves. You can see that right here, not all of these are parallel. In fact, very few of them are parallel. Down here, the curves arc up more, and then up here, they are basically parallel. So the top section of the Cessna 172 can more or less be bent easily, but the bottom sections of the Cessna 172 really need to be taken care of because the curves curve upwards, so the gap will be bending over more, basically. This is really interesting. I'm learning a ton. We can also go to curvature map analysis select this as our body. Yeah, it kind of... Though, I was not expecting that. Twist ending. Regardless, this week we made a lot of progress, and I'm really excited to share it all on YouTube. And I'd like to say a humongous thank you to all of these people on the screen who have been helping keep Captain Bob at a slightly nose-high attitude with lots of airspeed. If you're new to the Cessna 172 project, I'd recommend clicking this playlist right here to see all of the videos from the start. And if you'd like to subscribe, you can randomly click my face. I think that's a thing we do now on YouTube. Thank you all so much for watching. Have a fantabulous day, and I'll see you in the next episode. Have a good one.